And we are going to bring you the very latest from last night's State of the Union address. That's in just a moment. But first, we are working to learn more about a late-night homicide in Minneapolis.
So here's the scene. This is from the 100 block of East 18th Street. All we know from Minneapolis police at this point is a man died after reports of a shooting. It was just after 10:30. That's according to the Minneapolis Police public dashboard. No word on any suspects, arrests, or who police are looking for. We, of course, will update you as soon as we learn more.
Now let's take you down to Washington, D.C. A live look at the Capitol this morning. This is where President Trump delivered his State of the Union address last night.
The golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot.
President Trump addressing America last night. This was his first State of the Union address for his second term.
Now, during the speech, he spoke highly of the country, but also mentioned Minnesota, and that created some heated moments. Our Barrett Leone is joining us this morning with what the president had to say about our state. Barrett?
Yeah, it was one of the more dramatic exchanges of the evening, and Minnesota was right in the middle of it. President Trump pointed to fraud investigations in our state, singling out members of the Somali community. Now, during his address, he called out our state and said it was a, quote, stunning example of corruption plundering America, claiming members of the Somali community have stolen an estimated $19 billion. It's an estimate we've heard before from the president, but one we've not been able to verify. Federal prosecutors announced in December of last year that they were reviewing Minnesota programs that have billed Medicaid $18 billion since 2018. At that time, the lead attorney told us that half of that could be fraud, although that number has not been confirmed yet. As the president targeted the Somali community, tension built.
The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the exception. Serious penalties for public officials who...
And at that point, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar started shouting, accusing the president of lying about fraud in Minnesota. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for Minnesota, more than 90% of the people charged in major fraud cases announced before December of last year were of Somali descent. But the number of people of Somali descent charged is a small fraction of the Minnesota Somali community. And that shouting from Representative Omar was not her sole comment of the evening. She also started shouting, "You're killing Americans," while the president talked about ending sanctuary cities. Now, in the next half hour, we'll dig more into the president's comments about immigration, and we'll hear response from Democrats on that.
Yeah, some pointed comments there. Our Barrett Leone live in Minneapolis this morning. Barrett, thank you. Now, lawmakers are able to bring guests to the State of the Union address, and this year, the son of assassinated former Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman was there to witness the speech.
Colin Hortman was a guest of Congresswoman Kelly Morrison. WCCO spoke with Hortman ahead of last night's address for the first time since his parents' deaths. He tells us that he grew up watching the State of the Union with his parents every year, no matter who the president was. Hortman said that he hoped by being there he could serve as a reminder to elected officials that how they treat each other matters.
And I think my message to congressional leaders and representatives and really everybody is just to act with dignity and lead with without condemnation of other people or ideas, and keep it based on ideas and not fall back into the tribalism that we've seen in recent years.
Hortman says in the months following the assassination of his parents and their dog Gilbert, he is still figuring out the best way to honor their memory. But a start, he says, comes from the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi that his mom kept in her wallet. That begins with, "Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace." Now, some congressional Democrats made political statements through the guests that they brought. Senator Amy Klobuchar, she attended and brought a local brewery owner who had been impacted by tariffs.
But others in opposition to President Trump simply did not go. A number of Democrats decided to hold their own alternative events. Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota was among those who did not attend the traditional State of the Union address. Senator Smith is closing out her final term, and last night the progressive lawmaker stood outside with a handful of other senators and representatives. They called it the People's State of the Union and said it would counter the president's, quote, night full of lies and misplaced priorities. About 24 lawmakers attended, taking the mic to speak against the administration, the Trump administration. Senator Smith focused her speech on the immigration crackdown here in Minnesota.
Inside the Capitol, Donald Trump is lying about the state of this nation. He is using division to drive us apart, to make us think that we are not one nation, one community. And that is why we are all gathered here today.
Senator Smith brought with her the superintendent of Fridley Public Schools to share more on how the federal immigration crackdown has impacted students and families. And coming up in the next half hour, a look at the alternate event Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry spoke at. Of course, our coverage of the State of the Union continues. You can always head to WCCO.com. You can go there right now for a full breakdown of the speech, response, and fact checks of key statements made in that record-breaking long address.
It's now 6:08. We want to get the very latest from the live desk with Maria Lisignoli. You are following a legislative hearing today on food insecurity.
That's right. Today, the House Children and Families Committee will focus their first DFL-led hearing this year on the profound reality of food insecurity sweeping across Minnesota. They say proposals will include efforts to fight policies made by the Trump administration. Those policies have cut funding to SNAP, and lawmakers say it made these supplemental supports more difficult to access for families, foster youth, and vulnerable adults. This comes as the number of Minnesotans relying on SNAP to put food on the table increases. The committee will hear testimony from advocates and community members, as well as presentations on the county-led impact of the Big Beautiful Bill on the SNAP program. Also, how the current federal landscape and federal funding actions are impacting the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. The House hearing is happening at 3 this afternoon at the state capitol. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll tell you about the Senate committee hearing on the future of HCMC in Minneapolis.
That's a big deal over there. All right, Maria, thank you.